All right, we're back. Coming to you live from Athens, Georgia. Panda Watch. All right, we're back to talk about more business ideas that we love.
No
and
idea.
I forgot to give a shout out. You never seen Anchorman?
I
Where he
have.
goes- what's the guy's Paul Rudd? He's like Panda Watch, and they're like doing this stupid thing about this panda.
I didn't
having a
catch
baby.
that, but yeah,
Okay.
I appreciate
One of
it.
my favorite movies. Anyway, we are going to do some more rundowns on businesses that we love, and the list. I forgot to mention the list of businesses that I love. That's on my website, sweatystartup.com. If you search businesses I love on there, you will see a list of about 200 service businesses. All the ones that we're talking about today are on there. We do rundowns of several of those where we've actually written articles about those businesses, about how we'd start them, how we'd market them, and so on. We're going to talk about 3 more today. We're going to lead off with you, Max, and we're going to go into some higher barriers to entry. Last ones were basically ones that you could do without any money, young, inexperienced, perfect for anybody. But these next couple, we're going to do require some skill. All 3 of these that we're going to talk about require some skill. Max, go ahead. Start us off.
Yeah, so the first one that I want to talk about is mobile mechanic, and specifically for the commercial side, because I've dealt with mobile mechanics so many times, and I've never had one that's good for more than like 1 or 2 services. And they charge quite a bit. Like one guy, it can be as much as $150 an hour to come out, look at your truck with a 2-hour minimum. And almost every single bill is at least $1,000. And no one answers the phone. No one is reliable. There's just so much money there. And you can have commercial clients that are having trucks break down all the time. There's all these small companies with just a few trucks who can't afford a mechanic. And there's just such a huge opportunity, and someone who's, good mechanically inclined to.
Yep. Max runs a moving company. He has 9 crews out almost every day. I think even today in the off season, you have 5 crews. It's December. So you're looking at a guy whose time is money. Like when you are doing this stuff with a business, if a truck breaks down, it is costing him dollars every single minute that it is sitting on the side of the road. A lot of times there's 2 employees sitting there with it, which is huge. So if Max had a reliable mobile mechanic, doesn't matter what they would charge you, honestly. As long as it was semi-fair.
Yeah.
Like, boom, you're
and they
coming
know what
out.
they're doing.
So what has your been experience so far? How many have you used, and are they any good?
I mean, they're horrible, but I've tried to use them all the time because it's so much better than having to tow a truck to the dealership.
So you use like that example when you talked about the truck on the side of the road, 2 guys sitting there. You would call a mobile mechanic and they would go meet you right at the spot instead of you having to tow it and then.
Yeah, well, 9 times out of 10, the breakdown is something that can be fixed in like an hour or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can avoid having to unload it into a different truck and then tow the truck, which is like $500 to a dealership, paid dealership prices, most of the time it can be fixed right there on the road because it's something having to do with coolant or something like that. And it's just the reliability. These guys are not answering the phone. The ones who do answer the phone, half the time I've had someone come and be like, I don't know what this is. You got to tow it to the dealership. And it didn't end up being like anything big.
It just wasn't the most basic thing ever. So they just didn't want to.
Exactly.
So I've actually done 2 mentoring calls with mobile mechanics that have called into the Sweaty Startup and talked to me about their business, and they are absolutely killing it. All they're doing is answering the phone. They're putting little posts on Craigslist and having a Google My Business location, and the phone does not stop ringing about people needing their services. Because like you said, time is money for these businesses, and the people out there that they're competing with are horrible at being professional. Mainly it's professionalism.
Yeah.
Like if I'm hiring a mobile mechanic, what I'm thinking of is I want somebody who's not going to hang out at my house for 5 hours, especially when it's my wife and kids there. I don't want somebody there with a dirty shirt and smelling like booze and really rough around the edges. I want somebody who's going to be professional. They're not going to chat up my wife when I'm sitting there, at the house. They're going to get in, they're going to do what they're supposed to do, and they're going to leave. And I think that's something that they all struggle with. They're showing up, they're making a mess of somebody's driveway, they're there too long. You know what I mean? So that's one way, just one of the many ways you could differentiate yourself.
Yeah, the way I would market that would be so easy. Literally, if you go to every small moving company, and I know for a fact if you went to 10, 7 of them would use you within the next 2 months because no one has a good mobile mechanic. I've had 1 or 2 mobile mechanics come to my office ever, and I've tried them both. Both of them sucked, but I tried them.
Yeah. So they were 2 for 2 on their efforts of just saying, use us.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So I think the quick startup rundown would be cargo van, the basic tools to do even 80%, like 50% of the stuff that needs to happen, like you could do with a couple $1,000s worth of tools. You're not trying to pull engines or do transmissions on the side of the road. You know how to, fix flat tires. You know how to jump. Half the calls are probably going to be cars that need jumped because today people just don't know how to do anything with their vehicles.
There's an in right there. I would use that as marketing. If your truck is dead, I'll come jump it for free.
Okay.
And then you're the guy who jumped it for free. Remind them, yeah, I can do all this other work. You're definitely the person I'd be calling next
Give them an
time.
air freshener so that the air freshener says, like, Max's mobile mechanic, and then next time they're sitting on the side of the road, they're looking at that air freshener, they're going to call you.
I wonder if there'd be an in for, like you had a guy come out and he said, you have to go get it towed anyways. I wonder if there would be an in for, let's just say your engine is completely destroyed, right? Or your transmission is done, to get like a referral type of a fee. Because if you purely want to specialize in being a mobile mechanic and you don't have a, the full mechanic shop, but you have someone you're sending them to, so like you go there, you do your best to fix it. And if you can't, you're able to send it to someone who specializes, and especially like you talk about if a semi, not like necessarily semis, but we're talking about commercial clients here. Trucks are expensive to fix, very, very expensive. So to where if you just got a small percentage of saying, okay, well, here's a customer, I'm sending them to these to you
and the towing company
and the towing, like there would be ways to kind of get money from.
And I love businesses that play into real estate, and I did not realize that mobile mechanic could play into real estate, because I know a lot of people in the car fixing field. They have these actual shops, and the way that they make their long-term wealth is the shops are sitting on this high-value real estate that they're able to depreciate. They get the tax advantages of that real estate. So, like, if you can work your way into, maybe you're running a mobile mechanic business now, maybe that mobile mechanic business stays as your loss leader, bringing in the big work to your own shop down the road.
Right,
like, as a 5-year plan, you're a guy that owns now 3 or 4 shops in town, doing really, really well, growing a big, scalable business where people are, working there in front of you, where you can manage them a little bit easier. But I love it.
It's great.
And do the cheap fix if possible. If you go in and you find something that doesn't even need to be fixed, you're like, oh, I just had to do such and such, and it was nothing. Tell them that and charge them, for that small price, because they're going to appreciate that and they're going to use it
honesty.
again.
Yeah, it's a business where people are just feeling like they're getting ripped off out there.
Yeah.
So if you
You assume you're going to get ripped off before you even go there. Like you get a quote and you're like, something's wrong here. And you just feel like I know what you mean.
Yeah, every mechanic has called me on the phone and said a bunch of words that I don't understand and made me feel like my car is literally got cancer and it's gonna never make it another mile. That's what he's telling me on the phone. If I don't do X, Y, and Z, it's not 100% necessary right now, but long term down the road, you got to have your vehicles, alternator tuned up to your, these guys talk. It's ridiculous.
And there's the potential for reoccurring service if you want to do oil changes, because I know on like my trucks, they're class 6, like box trucks, it's $250 per truck per oil change.
Woo!
And if you're calling every 3 months, like, hey, you ready for another oil change? I just saw that you might be due for scheduling. They're going to say, yeah.
And that's a value add right there. Purely, like we think about when you're managing a fleet, you're obviously worrying about your guys going to and from the customers. So like sometimes the condition of the truck, like an oil change can be an afterthought. So even having someone who knows when your last oil change was, and they're going to remind you like, hey, it's like literally you need an oil change now. And then all you have to do is say, okay. And then they go out and they change the oil. Like that's beautiful as opposed to you when you're busy doing all this other stuff to say, wait, I think it's been 6 months, or how many miles has it been? Let me go like check in the truck. Like it's like, if you don't have a system for that, that's like a big value add for sure.
Yep.
Right.
Nobody buys a drill bit because they need a drill bit. They buy a drill bit because they need a hole in the wall. Max is not going to buy a mobile mechanic because he needs a mobile mechanic. He's going to buy mobile mechanics for peace of mind and not having to worry about that side of his business. So if you can go up to a guy like Max and say, Max, I'm your guy to never have to worry about maintenance or care of your trucks ever again. It's going to automatically happen. I'm going to take care of that. Max is going to be like, okay, send me the bill. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let me get back to moving stuff.
That's
you take
simple.
care of everything else. So I love it. Also, you mentioned commercial. I like residential. I know you don't necessarily, but I like mobile mechanics are horrible at online. They're horrible at SEO. They're horrible at customer service. So if you can provide this stuff to everyday people, you can charge even more money. And if you can get those new customers coming in, which is hard work, you can make really good money as well. So it can be a, dual-headed approach.
Yeah.
Sure.
I also love the fact that changing brakes is a thing that anybody can diagnose. Like you can hear brake job going bad. You're gonna just go to get that one thing done. You could possibly get really, really good at just brakes. Like I'm only the brake job, and I can do it in 2 hours. I can make $500. It's scalable. Like literally, you can watch YouTube videos and learn how to do a brake job.
Yeah.
So training your employees is easier. They're not diagnosing, doing really high skilled work out on the truck. So
brakes are super doable in a driveway, right? It's like it's one of those things where Like, if a guy needs brakes and his car's parked in his driveway, you're going to be able to complete the job. It's like
in 2
it's
hours.
very
Some guys are
straightforward.
good.
Yeah, which is it's the other thing. It's like your costs are more manageable because you know what your costs are, how much the brakes are, and you also know how long it's going to take you. So it's easier to convey that to the customer and say, this is what it's going to cost you, as opposed to showing up and having to diagnose.
And imagine trying to hire that first employee when you are trying to get them to do 7 or 8 different types of service on a vehicle, training them on how to do all that stuff, to diagnose that stuff. It'd be hard to do, right? So like focusing on one thing's like having a crew that just does oil changes on big class 6 or whatever you call them trucks, or like brake jobs or tires or things like that could be really good.
Yeah, agreed. It's a good one.
Awesome stuff. Okay, next we got Dan with his real estate forays.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily big barriers to entry with this one, but
Cash.
So I recently bought a place in Athens and have been Airbnb-ing it, but I still live here now as well. But when I'm not here, I started looking into what it would cost to have somebody manage this place for me. And to put it into perspective, managing an Airbnb, I don't think it's that hard. Like, me managing it myself is not all that difficult. And I started looking into it. I'm like, well, what would someone actually charge me so that I would have complete peace of mind and not have to worry about it? And it seems like it's roughly 30%, anywhere from 20 to 40 is what I read. And so we'll just assume 30% here for sake of argument. But 30% of your total Airbnb revenue is something you could get back for just managing somebody's listing. Now, that's you don't have to own the place. You don't have to do the cleaning.
True. So there is no cash. Yeah.
Right. This is not in line with barriers to entry point, but and you don't have to do the cleaning either. You just would be outsourcing the cleaning.
Yeah.
But to put it in perspective, for my Airbnb, it'll probably bring in $20,000 in revenue, we'll call it, or whatever you want to say. So for someone to manage my listing, if they had 30% of that, is
$6,000.
$6,000. That's a good chunk of change. And you think about the efforts that go into it, you got to obviously respond to the people. You got to work with the calendars and things like that. But it's
what's the Wi-Fi password?
Yeah, it's it's not
take
awful.
A couple good pictures.
Yeah. So there's and again, I think the value add is you could definitely find some people who don't even know they want Airbnb, or that they're currently renting their place to a renter, and they have they're making, let's just say, less.
Let's give
always
them a less.
less.
At the financials of here in this place. I mean, we're looking at a place that Dan bought for, let's say, around $300,000 to make it simple. Dan is renting it just on the weekends, twice a month, and he's going to bring in about $20,000 in a year. If you rented it full time, if there was nobody here, it would be $35,000 to $40,000 brought in this place. I mean, we're in a college town with a football team. It's a little bit unique here, but there are many places that are in higher demand than this where we're sitting.
And the going rate for this place, I bet I could get $2,000 if someone were to rent it full time. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but it's right around $2,000. Even just those numbers you said of
so 40 on Airbnb,
40
24.
Wow. And that's imagine putting that extra $16,000 towards your mortgage. Your 30-year mortgage would turn into 20 just by even less, or another property. That's the other thing. That's
well, you're taking, so say you give 20% to the Airbnb management company. So let's just say a startup guy comes to the person across the hall from Dan and says, hey, I know you make $24,000 a year from your place right now. I know for a fact on all my data that I have that you can make 40. Give me 20% of it. I'll make 8 and you'll make a lot more. We all win. We all win.
Yeah. Sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I guess the creative thing that you'd have to do is find the landowners.
Yeah,
find the people who own the real estate.
Exactly, because I think you'd want to find people who are already Airbnb in their own place. Obviously, you could possibly find someone I don't know how you'd find those people who are Airbnb in their place, except for messaging
probably not in
people.
the right market. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you can find people that are renting it, and you're in an area that you believe would have a good return on Airbnb revenue, I think then. I guess you could just pass out flyers to them, knock on their door.
You could just search listings for rent too.
Yeah,
they're currently vacant.
Exactly.
I would search houses that were for sale and sitting on the market. Say a house is sitting on the market for 6 months. It's not going to sell. Football season's coming up in Athens, Georgia.
Right.
I'd call the listing agent and be like, hey, you can still show it. You can still get ready to sell it. I'll bring in some furniture. Let me take half.
Yeah, and that's an interesting play there too, is almost like seasonal Airbnb. Even if you don't do it as a full-time thing for a year round, you could, we'll take Athens here, again, big college football town, purely just finding people who you could rent their place out for them and going around and asking them to do that. So a lot of potential.
And
there.
it could get into staging. You could be a staging company. You could help people appreciate their assets before they sell them. Like I can think of hundreds of different places this could take you 5 years from now. Number one, people who own real estate in town talk to each other, and people who own real estate in town own more than one piece of real estate in town. So you do a really good job renting out one guy's place, and then Dan tells Max, who tells Nick. Next thing you know, not very long after, hey, I heard you got Dan $750 a night when Notre Dame came to town. Can you do the same thing to my house? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Word of mouth, boom, boom, boom. Before you know it, you got 20 listings. You're making $200,000 a year just for responding to a couple tenants and dropping a couple keys off. Like I can't even think how many properties you'd have to have before you need to hire someone.
Even the keys thing is like
there's auto key things,
my place. You like type in the code to get in the building. You type in a code. I have like a pretty simple setup of here's like a YouTube video of how you get into the parking garage. Here's like the GPS. It's like if you do a good job of mapping out.
So I like the idea of sending a video. This is how you get into the building. Yeah,
that was actually what Nick Airbnb his place one night. I think it was your idea. A long time ago.
Yeah, so Dan's got a really tricky entry point to the bottom. I'm like, this is going to be a little bit hard. Like, you might have to meet people. And he's like, no. And he just shows up and he's filming his video like, okay, push the gate thing right here. Push.
It's amazing. Literally nobody asks me any questions. Like nothing. Because when someone
it's very complicated. It's a little bit hard.
When someone does ask me a question, I'm like, okay, I got to add that into the
video.
Or to the video and like the welcome letter. And
that's the thing. You just constantly decrease your work, though, because you just address
constantly.
it.
So, it's
beautiful, beautiful business with recurring revenue that is only going to get more and more popular.
I mean, by far the hardest part is the cleaning, like for me personally, but that's not what I'm suggesting here. Like you just manage it, and then because like if you guys have ever used Airbnb before, it's like the cleaning is the customer pays for the cleaning and like an extra in addition to their rent.
You tell them what you think the fee is going to be.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be a part of this. Like you're not cleaning, but you are responsible for finding a cleaning company. But
if you wanted to get gritty off the bat, you could clean.
And that's extra money right there. Yeah,
you could,
exactly.
Like if I can think of ways that if I was really hungry and I was resourceful, I would outfit their place with a Ring doorbell for free if they promised to rent with me for 6 months.
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would create all those videos. I would take all the pictures myself. Like I would do all this stuff myself, bake it into the cost so that I can earn even more. So by the time you do all those other things, by the time you do the cleaning, by the time you do the pictures, by the time you do the Ring doorbells, by the time you manage all the listings, your 20% is really 30% after you get all the rest. So it could be really cool. There's some big companies out there doing this stuff in California. There are some companies to study that we're just kind of talking off the top of our head, but there are some big Airbnb management companies, but it's such an untapped market. I don't know of any in Athens that don't charge almost 30-40%. It's a great opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
What do you got, Nick?
Last one is I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I have two boys. They are 4 months old and 2.5 years old, and I hope that they go to trade school. Honestly. Like I would love nothing more if they became certified electricians or plumbers or general contractors or got into the construction industry, because the construction industry, as we all know now that we're all three homeowners actually now, and you've tried to get a business built out, and Dan and I are building self-storage facilities now. This industry is so far behind the times that if you answer the phone, if you get quotes out, if you know how to look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, you can do extremely well for yourself. Extremely well. So I like electrician the best of all these because you don't necessarily beat your body up as much. Like a plumber, you're like getting up in the middle of the night. You are hauling.
It's more you have emergency plumbing work. You don't.
And you're on your hands and knees.
Awkward spaces.
You know, drywall guys are busting their knees and joints, and tile guys are on their backs. You know, sheet metal workers, their joints all get hurt. I love electrical, but honestly, my favorite of all is general contractors. A general contractor is somebody who basically you bring them into your house or your business and you have a vision, or they help you with a vision of what kind of construction projects you want to get done. And then they say, okay, I'm going to handle everything. I'm going to hire the tile guy. I'm going to hire the drywall guy. I'm going to hire the trim carpenter. I'm going to hire the framer, everything, the painter. I'm going to get it all done for you. You're not going to have to worry about anything. I'm going to work within your budget, but I'm going to take 10, 15% on top of everything. So I'm going to pay all my guys, and then I'm going to take my cut for just overseeing it all. And if you're a salesman like Max, and you can go up and you can shake people's hand and you're not afraid to go meet people, oh my God, it'd be a deadly combination.
Right.
So I get pumped up just talking about it. What's your experience? You try to get a little bit of work done in your office,
My first thought is if you've ever managed people at all, that's going to be easier to manage people who run small businesses than employees.
Yeah, you're really not managing employees, right? You're managing other businesses, just helping. And basically you're helping other businesses sell, kind of. which is kind of lead generation with much higher touch and a version of lead generation that I actually really like. So I think there's a ton of value add, and it also goes right into real estate. Like if I was a GC and I knew all these people and I knew construction costs and I knew how to budget builds, buying real estate, distressed real estate would be a dream come true, because you can do something and you can add value right off the bat in your relationships and the way that you build out, your skill set adds so much to real estate.
And you're already on top 15% because you're not paying your own cut.
Yep. So love it. Any thoughts on marketing that or running that business or what you're seeing out there? Dan, now you're basically running the Auburn development project. What are you seeing out there as far as like getting a hold of sign guys and plow guys?
There's definitely effort contacting all these people and trying to, get them to get back to you, because I would say that would be an issue, not the only issue, but you're dependent on other people to an extent, but yet you're the one who would be responsible at the end of the day, right? Which, but if that's your main value add, I think that could be a different opportunity there.
The challenge would be managing expectations, I think.
Right.
Like managing the expectations, you would need to think, okay, I can probably get this job done in 6 weeks. I'm going to tell the customer 10 weeks. And I'm going to tell my contractors 4.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that's how I would do it, so that I didn't live a stressed out life and everybody end up unhappily. Like I would be very upfront with people and say, look, we're all booked up. These guys are busy, but I'm very good. And I think we can get it done in 10 weeks. I think we can do it on this budget. And I would come in faster and under budget every single time. And then word would spread that Nick delivers on his word and he gets this stuff done.
Oh yeah. If you cut $500 out of every single job too.
They'd love you.
There's a definite value add. Like you referenced this Auburn development, and it's definitely like a math you do in your head of, is it worth 10% to not have to do it? Yeah. Cause it's a lot of effort, right? So to have to deal with all these different contractors. And I guess if you were a GC in an area, you would have relationships with these people.
Yeah,
so it's not the same. It's not like
You'd
me calling someone for the first time and saying, hey, can I get a quote on what,
maybe you'd be able to get your 10% off the price anyway.
Yeah. You'd get some economies of scale by giving them constant business, and then you're charging what the market rate would be, and then you're still getting some on top of that. So I think it would be a lot easier once you've established yourself and you've got these connections.
Once you have a good tile guy, once you have a good drywall guy, once you have a good HVAC guy,
because then
things get a lot easier.
They want to keep you happy too, because
bringing them biz.
Yeah, so it's kind of
So to combine those two things, my brother used to work for a huge general contractor that did all the electrical in-house, because that was the most profitable portion. And I don't remember exactly how many employees they had, but there was several hundred, and they were constantly building.
Wow.
Yeah, they were constantly building sky rises and all these massive buildings.
They contracted out everything except for the electrical. They did that in house and said, this is where we're going to make a lot of high profit here, but then we're still going to make more on the whole project.
Exactly.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And it seems like a business that is started over time. I mean, first of all, I think about who I'm competing with, and you're competing with people who they're doing it because their dads did it. They didn't get business degrees. They don't consider themselves entrepreneurs. They don't do marketing. They don't do sales. They don't know anything about websites. They don't know anything about Google Drive and being paperless within their business. So you can get a lot of operational advantages, but also when it comes to, like, again, the scale that you can operate at and the opportunities, like the momentum of 5 years from now, where you could be. Like you start out doing a basement remodel, and then 5 years from now, you found your niche and you're remodeling nursing homes and hospitals for big money.
Yeah.
Right.
I can just see the way that career progresses over time could be. Like, I'm sure the guy who owns that business that is the GC and the electrical company, he didn't start out and say, that's what I'm going to do. Probably started out really small and worked his way up.
Right.
Or started out as an electrician somewhere, something like that, and then kind of got into that.
Yep.
That way.
Yeah. Or you could be a GC, do little acquisitions of different companies that you're constantly using.
I love it. You kind of piece together, roll up several companies. Like, this is an HVAC company that's really poorly managed, has a lot of potential. I'm going to buy it, bring it in-house, use my back end. Oh, here's an electrical company that is doing really poorly. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to bring it in-house, combine it, use my same staff to get the synergies around that.
Wow. So then you're making high profit on each individual company, but then you're also making your 10-15% on top of the project, and that's a big chunk right there.
One management, one higher level
management.
Yeah,
a lot of
for
efficiencies.
All the companies.
One bookkeeping system, one software to manage it all.
Sounds wonderful.
I want to quit the storage business.
Yeah. What am I doing?
I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes as much as I am, because this is a ton of fun.
It's getting me amped up.
It is. I think people will like listening to this stuff. I think we're going to get some calls. If you like this, send us an email. Comment on the video for Max. Send me an email, nick@sweatystartup.com. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think of this stuff. Maybe we'll do some more of it. We could do this all day. Literally,
Yeah.
it took us about 5 minutes of preparation to do this episode.
A couple pieces of paper with like
Yeah.
3 words.
I didn't even open my notebook.
Yeah.
Me and Max were having a beer at lunch, and we're like, "Hey, what do you think about these 3 businesses?" I was like, "Oh, let's do it. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome."
Let's do a video.
We let Dan know we were going to do it about an hour ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for listening. Go Dogs, and see you later.
See ya.